Even though I've picked them not to get top 2, I still think they're going to get promoted to the Premier League, to be honest. I still think they are the strongest of that 3. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing fantastically well. It is Connor. We are back here with another One Leeds video. We are back here with the brand new merch. Check it out, everybody. Link in the description below. A lot of you guys have been asking about the merchandise. I had a fair few sales already, so make sure you check that out. Link in the description below. We also have a Patreon account. Make sure you check that out, everybody. £4 a month for extra podcasts and all that good stuff. You can become a YouTube member as well. I'm spilling over my words this morning. We also have the debrief live tomorrow evening, everybody, so make sure you check in for that one. Okay, what we're doing today is my final predictions when it comes to the league table, the league standings in the Championship. We're going to be going through which team's going to be getting promoted to the Promised Land, the Premier League. I need you to stay with me through this. Make sure you let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Fascinated to hear what you think, and let's get into it. So everybody, we're going to be going and we're going to be starting on the form. So we'll start with the last 10 and then we'll move on to the last 6, just so it can indicate to you guys which teams are in the driving seat for this Championship campaign, the remainder of so. So as you can see on screen now, the last 10 is a pretty decent sample size. Now, Leeds United have not lost in 10, 9 wins, and the Whites, it has to be said, I'm trying to take bias out of this because I do want to make it very Championship-led and not just Leeds bias, but I'm naturally going to have a bias in there as well. But Leeds haven't lost in 10, 9 wins, only points dropped to Huddersfield Town in a pretty lacklustre performance by the Whites. Now, if we move down to Ipswich Town here, they seem to have really revitalised after a little bit of a slump mid-season. Ipswich, 2 losses in 10. Now, we move to Leicester City. Obviously, they have a game in hand on Leeds United, Ipswich Town as well. They've actually dropped a mass amount of form. 3 wins in 10 and 2 draws. So 5 wins for Leicester in their last 10. A significant drop in form when you look on their assault of the Championship calendar not long ago. Southampton as well, 3 losses in 10. Very, very interesting stuff. But I think now it's a little bit more relevant to move on to the last 6 fixtures when it comes to form. Now, it is very, very important that we do mention that Leicester City do have a game in hand, obviously because of their loss in the FA Cup to Chelsea. So let's go through the last 6. The latest form, Leeds and Ipswich still the top 2 according to thefishy.co.uk. Leeds winning 5 out of their last 6. Ipswich winning 5 out of their last 6. Only losing to Cardiff City, scoring 19 goals. Obviously, the mass part of that was due to their 6-0 hammering of Sheffield Wednesday. The big thing here, just in the form table as well, as Leeds United only conceding 2 goals. Massive. Leeds losing out to Huddersfield, as we've mentioned. But as we said earlier on, Southampton were in 3rd in the last 10 in terms of form. You look at 14th and 15th there, Southampton and Leicester City, and that's because in both of their last 6s, there's been a combined 6 losses between the two, 3 losses each. So both of their loss ratio has gone really high in their last 6, which has been really interesting. And does that bear fruit when we come to the running right now? So my general thoughts are that the top, if we're looking at Southampton in particular, the top 2 for them is hanging. I think, 73 points. They've still got 2 games in hand, but I'd much rather have points on the board. And I think Southampton fans would admit to that themselves, really. I think it's going to be difficult for Southampton right now to regain that top 2. I think the top 3 teams right now are just on a collision course. And listen, when I say the top 3 teams, there's 2 out of those 3 who, as we've seen by the form, are flying, and that is Ipswich and Leeds United. Leicester have dropped off a little bit, but obviously Leicester is still in that conversation because of their incredible form and their incredible pedigree, calibre, quality over the season, really. So that's something to take into consideration, but I think Southampton are going to finish outside the top 2, opt to have them at a 4.8% chance of actually getting into that top 2, which is incredible. Ipswich Town, my general thoughts are they had the wobble. It was a very similar wobble to what they had in League One, and they seem to have got over that. We're looking at their 6-0 win over Sheffield Wednesday, which would have given them mass confidence. I believe Wes Burns was out for that game as well. 7 out of 8 wins. Their only loss came to a Cardiff City side at home where they conceded in the 95th and I think it was 100th minute. It has to be said that Leeds and Leicester are the overwhelming favourites. It still does feel, and that comes down to form when it comes to Leeds and quality, but also Leicester with their quality and calibre. You've just got to feel at some point that they are going to turn it around, and they do obviously have that game in hand. Opta have their fixture difficulty, which I think it's really key to look at as well, because fixture difficulty is what we've all been looking at over the past however many days. It sort of gives you a little bit of a blueprint on who the teams in the top 4, top 6 have to face, how difficult they're going to be. Opta gives you sort of an average fixture difficulty rating, which I think is really, really helpful. So if we are to just initially look at the top 4 and their average fixture difficulty rating, looks like Southampton's difficulty rating is the highest at 77.7, which is the 3rd highest in the division. Very key to know. Ipswich then in second with 76.5 in terms of difficulty. And then you're looking at Leicester and Leeds joint on 76.2. So really, really interesting there how the current top 2 now, when you look at Opta, seem to have the easiest run-in. Obviously, none of those fixtures, I think, for Leeds United are going to be easy. Same with Leicester, same with Ipswich, same with Southampton, to be quite honest with you, because there are a lot of difficult fixtures in there, not only at the top of the table, but when you throw in teams like QPR, for instance, they're going to be absolutely fighting for their lives. You know, Sheffield Wednesday in there, Birmingham, another side. So really, there's going to be no easy games, and I actually think facing a lot of the mid-block teams would probably be easier right now than facing anyone in the bottom half, in the bottom sort of 6, I should say, because those bottom 6 teams become top 6 teams, as I've mentioned several times in my videos already. So when we look at the set of fixtures that Opta have deemed the difficult fixtures, highlighted in red or sort of mild red, Southampton have Borough at home. They've then got Ipswich away, Coventry at home, Cardiff away, Leicester away, and Leeds away. That's why I don't think Southampton are going to make up that. I think they've got a lot of tough games in the last 8-9. I think going to Ipswich, going to Leeds, and going to Leicester is going to see them out of that top 2 race. Then you look at Ipswich, who have the next toughest fixture difficulty rating according to Opta on this scale. They've got Southampton at home, Norwich away in pretty much consecutive weeks, which is going to be sort of a make or break period, I think, for Ipswich. They've obviously got Middlesbrough at home, which is never going to be easy. They've also got Coventry and Hull away, both fighting for their lives for that 6th spot. Then we go to Leicester City, who I've looked at really, and I think a lot of their decent games are at home. You know, I don't think they've got many teams to face away. The King Power's been a bit of a fortress this season for them. So Norwich at home, West Brom at home, and Southampton at home, not going to be easy, but they are at the King Power. And then you look at Leeds United, Hull at home, which wasn't easy for us whatsoever. Coventry away, which I think is one of the most difficult fixtures in the division, to be quite honest with you. Middlesbrough away, a team that absolutely despise Leeds, and a kind of derby, if you want to put it that way. And Southampton at home, hoping by that point Southampton are completely out of it. So Leeds and Leicester, you can tell they probably have the easiest fixture list in that top 4. Now, if we do look at the playoff structure, you've got Norwich in there. Now, their fixture difficulty, according to Opta, is pretty decent. They've also got 3 wins in 5. I think Hull City's is about 3rd or 4th in the difficulty rating, just in behind Southampton. Middlesbrough and Coventry, interestingly, also have really difficult fixtures. It goes Hull, Borough, and Coventry in terms of difficulty. That's something to take into consideration. Hull, as we've just mentioned, are very difficult fixtures. They've still got to play Leeds, Cardiff, Borough, Coventry, Ipswich. That Hull Coventry game is going to be such a shootout for that top 6. It's going to be fascinating to see. Now, the really interesting thing about Hull is they've not lost in their last 6, drawing a lot, but we're going to get into those fixtures that they've played very, very soon. I think Coventry, once again, are very, very tough fixtures. Southampton, Leeds, Ipswich, and Hull. I think Coventry might just miss out, but the conversation for me is going to be between Hull and Norwich City. Now, crazily enough, because Cardiff are sat very, very far down in that list, below Borough, below Preston, but I think they're almost the outside chance, even though they're quite far behind. They're hitting some form now. They've got a really decent run in. According to Opta, they've got a 75.8 opposition average rating, and they've only got 4 to play in the top half, 2 to play at home. But I do think maybe that big difference between Cardiff and Norwich City is Norwich sit on 61 points. Cardiff are only on 53. it's a massive difference right now to make up, but they could be the outside chance. Now, when we do look at that playoff complexion, I've always said it from the start, really, when it comes to Norwich. I've always said that Norwich are going to end up in that top 6. They've not conceded in the last 2. They've scored 8, absolutely mullered Rotherham. They've battered Stoke away from home as well. And I still think they've got arguably the best midfielder in the division when it comes to Gabby Sarah. I would love Leeds United to go and sign him next season if we do get to the Premier League. Josh Sargent's hitting form, and Ashley Barnes is always very decent at this level. They've got a nice blend of experience with Ben Gibson, Kenny McLean as well, Angus Gunn. I think Norwich are in a really, really good position, and they're running, as I've mentioned, with that sort of like 4 that I think are in contention with it. I think Norwich have probably the best running, and according to Opta, that's backed up as well. But I would like to focus on Hull City. I've mentioned this a little bit earlier on. I just want to pay credit to Hull as well. In the last month, they've played West Bromwich Albion, Leicester, Southampton, and Preston, and they've not lost to any of them. That is really, really impressive by Hull City. I'm a huge fan of Zarori, Philogene, Ryan Giles, Carvalho. They've also got Adama Traore, Billy Sharp, Cyrus Christie, Aaron Connolly, all on the bench. They've got a lot of depth, Hull. They've done really, really well when it's come to the transfer market, and they've got a lot of big teams still to play, and Hull could really be a thorn in a lot of those sides, including my side, Leeds United. I really like Liam Rosenior. I think he's going to be a really good young upcoming boss, and he's going to go on to great things. We've seen a lot of his team talks online as well. Seems like a really calming influence on a fair few young bodies in there. Greaves at the back is an absolute monster, and I think Hull are going to be a real problem. Philogene, we've already mentioned the step up that we might be able to see from someone like Gabby Sarr. I think Philogene is on that next level as well, and I think ability-wise, he's probably quite similar to Mavididi and Crescencio Somerville. So my hunch, everybody, that 2 of the top 4 are going to get the automatic promotion spots, of course. I don't think there's going to be many other teams getting into it. I think West Brom are going to be solidified, and then it's between the other 2 for that 6th spot. Listen, I think you drop 3 or 4 points and you're out of this top 2 race. I think it's that competitive at this moment in time. West Bromwich Albion are definitely ones to focus on as well. They, according to Opta, have the 2nd easiest running. You know, they've got a lot of decent home fixtures in there as well. So West Brom, I think, are going to solidify that top 6. This is how my final standings are going to read. So winning the league, everybody, I'm going to go with Leicester City. I do think they are going to change that form around. I do think it's going to turn around a little bit. Listen, Leicester are a good side. We've had a look at their fixtures. I think their 3 most difficult fixtures, they've got them all at home. I think that's going to definitely feed into their form going forward. And I think Leicester are going to be okay and are probably going to win the league. That game in hand is really important for them. In 2nd spot, I am going to go with my club, Leeds United. I think Leeds' form has been nothing short of incredible, and I think we should be spoken about in the Championship for years and years to come, especially if we pit Leicester City to that title from where we were at the start of the season, where we were at one point when we were so far behind Leicester, 17-point difference, and we've grappled that back, currently in top position. But I just think that maybe Leeds may drop a point or 2 more to you maybe your likes of Coventry, Hull, etc., maybe even QPR. We won't drop many, but I think we might drop that extra point that maybe Leicester make up. That added game as well is probably going to help Leicester City. 3rd, I'm going to go Ipswich Town. I think Ipswich will have a really good run in, but I just think the top 2 are just going to be a little bit too much for them. Southampton, I probably think will drop off towards the end with some of the difficult fixtures they've got. I am picking Ipswich to beat Southampton at Portman Road, which I think is going to be a killer game. West Brom, I think, are going to solidify 5th, but I don't think they're going to come that far behind Southampton, to be honest, especially with their running. And the 6th place team that I'm going to go for is Norwich. I've just gone above them. Pipping Hull City, I know Hull have got that game in hand right now, 37 games in comparison to Norwich's 38 games. Hull versus Coventry is going to be a massive shootout. But I just think it's maybe going to come down to the fact that Liam Rosenior hasn't got experience in these sort of games. Wagner has got experience with Huddersfield when it comes to that promotion race. And I do think you've got a lot more players within that Norwich setup who have a little bit more experience than Hull City. I'm talking Ashley Barnes, I'm talking Kenny McLean, Angus Gunn, who've all sort of tasted promotion before. I think that is massive in this running, to be quite honest with you. So I'm going to get Norwich in 6th. But in terms of my final predictions, and maybe Norwich fans are probably not going to like this, I think the 3 teams that will get promoted are the top 3 right now. I think Ipswich go into that playoff race. And it'd be fascinating, especially because I've got Ipswich at 3rd, Norwich at 6th. That would mean that they have to play each other over a 2-legged tie. How unbelievable would that be? But I think Ipswich are just this machine at the minute. And even though I've picked them not to get top 2, I still think they're going to get promoted to the Premier League, to be honest. I still think they are the strongest of that 3 that would end up in the playoffs. And maybe that would be sweeter for Ipswich fans, beating Norwich over 2 legs. Sorry, Chris Reeve. That's my video, everybody. They are my final league positions. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Have I been fair? Have I been unfair? Please let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.